Welcome to episode 94 of Build Your House Yourself University by BYHYU. I'm your host and fellow student, Michelle Nelson, and together we'll learn the basics of home design and construction and demystify the building process so we can build quality dream homes with or without a general contractor. I recently wrote a guest blog post for a home improvement site called Kukun. I thought you might like to hear the tips that I gave them for finding a good subcontractor. I've covered many of these tips in previous podcast episodes, but I want to go over all the tips in a single show so you can reference this week's show notes when it comes time for you to search for your subs. Plus, I'll give you a couple of new suggestions. Before we get to the tips, shouts out go to Rick Doug, a realtor who listens to the show, and to April, a real estate investor and home renovator. Thanks so much for listening, you guys, and thank you for taking the time out to give us a 5-star rating and review. You didn't have to do it, but you did it anyway, so thank you for the encouraging words. Okay, moving on to our tips. First, let's quickly go over most of the subcontractors we'll need when building our homes. This is just a quick list. If you need more explanation of what each subcontractor does, take a listen to episode 22 called, What Subcontractors Do I Need to Hire to Build My New Home, and How Should I Manage Them? All right, the majority of us will need the following subs no matter what type of house we're building or where. A foundation contractor, a waterproofing contractor, a framer, sometimes called a framing carpenter, the mechanical subs, which include the electrician, the plumber, and HVAC contractor. We'll also need an insulation contractor, roofer, drywall or plaster installer, painter, flooring and tile guys, and a finish carpenter. Some of the more specialized subcontractors that you may or may not need include well drillers, excavators, septic system installers, blasting contractors, brick and stone masons, paving contractors, siding or stucco guys, stair builders, although a finish carpenter can sometimes build stairs, and finally, landscapers. What I've heard is that framing carpenters and finish carpenters will know most of the good subs in your area. That's because the framer and the finish carpenter are the guys who often have to fix the mistakes of other subs, and they're also the guys who work pretty closely with the finished work of other subs. So my plan is to call a few framers and finish carpenters early on in my search for subcontractors to get names from them of people they would use if they were building a house. Remember, that's one of my favorite questions to ask. If you were building a house, what subs would you use? Let's start our list of tips with a couple that I know you've heard a million times before. Number 1. Ask neighbors, friends, and family if they know a good plumber, electrician, carpenter, etc. Number 2, consult online directories for the names and reviews of subs in your area. Now, those 2 tips, they're great advice, and they're a great start. But let's go over some more unconventional, fresh suggestions. Number 3. Drive by up-and-coming neighborhoods in your area where new houses are being built. Look in the yards for signs showing company names and phone numbers. Subs often have signs posted. Be especially alert for names you see repeatedly. In general, subcontractors who do good work will be hired over and over again. Number 4, chat with subs. When you're at those home building job sites, have a chat with a few subcontractors. Ask them what subs they would use if they were having work done. Number 5, don't ask supply warehouse workers for recommendations. That's right, I said don't. Workers at wholesale stores, supply warehouses, and even big box stores are a good source of information about subcontractors. But if you ask them to recommend subs, you may not get specific names. Workers usually won't give recommendations. That's because they don't want to offend and risk losing the business of contractors they haven't recommended. So you have to be clever about the questions you ask. Try these. Who are the busiest subcontractors in the area? Or, what subs come in for supplies most often? Asking which subs are the busiest will again give you some idea of who gets hired often. Subs who work often usually work well. Number 6, check out your state's Home Builders Association website. Most states have a Home Builders Association website with a list of subcontractors that are dues-paying members. Most shady subcontractors won't take the time to join the HBA. The bonus here is that if you hire an HBA subcontractor and have trouble with them, you'll be able to file a complaint with the association. Number 7, ask a few builders if they would be willing to give you the names of some reliable subs. Now, many builders are very possessive of and private about the subs that they use regularly, but some might be willing to give you a few names. If a builder seems particularly hesitant to share names with you when you ask, you could say something like, "You don't have to give me the names of your guys, but could you tell me some other good subcontractors that you know?" Finally, you might be able to encourage them to talk if you offer a consultant's fee that the two of you agree upon. Number 8, it's a long shot, but ask your building inspectors my favorite questions, who they would use if they were building a house, but definitely don't ask for recommendations. Building inspectors really have the inside information, so they are a great source if you can get them to talk. With these tips, you should be able to come up with at least 5 to 10 candidates for each of the jobs that you'll potentially need. Okay, so what's next? Investigate before you invest. Before you hire and pay any subcontractor, it's smart to do some investigation. So here's tip number 9. Review the Better Business Bureau profile. This isn't a fresh, unconventional tip, but it's really good advice and it's easy to do. Look up the sub's Better Business Bureau rating and see if he has any complaints. Search bbb.org, not only for the company's name, but also the subcontractor's name. Number 10, get proof of license and insurance. Unfortunately, some subs will tell you they're licensed and insured when they're not. Ask everyone on your list for actual copies of their license and insurance papers. And so neither of you feels awkward, just tell the candidate that you need the papers for your project file. If anyone refuses to give up the papers, cross them off the list. Number 11, get at least 3 to 5 bids. Be as specific as you can about your scope of work and make sure you're comparing apples to apples. Don't forget to ask about the warranty. Be cautious of hiring any subcontractor with a price that's significantly lower or significantly higher than the other bids. Number 12, talk to 3 to 5 references. Ask for the names of several of the subcontractor's past clients and chat with them about what their experience was like with the sub. Ask them what they liked and disliked, and ask about the worst and the best characteristics of the sub and his crew. Make sure you talk to recent clients and clients from 10 or more years ago so you can find out how the sub's work holds up over time. Number 13, test the candidates. Call, text, and/or email each candidate a couple of times to see how responsive they are. Do they answer you within a reasonable amount of time, or do they ignore you? Take note of those subs that are especially receptive to communicating with you. Number 14, ask for ideas. When talking to candidates about your project, ask them for suggestions about what you could do to save money without compromising quality, or ask how you could make your design better. Put the guys with the best answers on your shortlist. The bonus here is that you might get some really great design and money-saving ideas. Number 15, look at their work if possible. Ask if they have clients who are willing to open their homes to you. If not, ask for photos of past work. And number 16, keep a list of runners-up. Hold on to the contact information of 2 or 3 subs in each job category, for example, plumbing, roofing, and painting. These are subs that you liked but didn't hire for your project. These subs are your backups, just in case something goes wrong with the guy you hired. If the sub you hired continually fails to show up, or if he's doing poor quality work, call one of the backups to see if he's interested in completing your project. If so, you can give your unreliable sub one last warning. Tell him you'll have to replace him if you don't see improvement. If problems continue, call your backup and ask if he could start work as soon as possible. Although firing a subcontractor is not ideal, sometimes it just has to be done. In summary, make a list and check it twice. Going through all these steps takes time and effort, but you'll greatly increase your chances of hiring good subcontractors. Plus, your effort will be assigned to your subs that you're on top of your game, that you mean business. They'll most likely conclude that because you've gone the extra mile to find quality subs, you'll expect quality work. If you know someone who's planning to build or renovate who might need these tips, you can share the show by text or email or on social media. It'll help them out, and it will also help the podcast grow. Well, that's all I have for you. I hoped it helped, and I hope you'll come back next week for another episode of Build Your House Yourself University by BYHYU. Please remember that the purpose of this podcast is simply to educate and inform. It's not a substitute for professional advice. The information that you hear is based only on the opinions, research, and experiences of my guests and myself. That information might be incomplete, it's subject to change, and it may not apply to your project. In addition, building codes and requirements vary from region to region, so always consult a professional about specific recommendations for your home.